Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to thank our witnesses for joining us. For Admiral Rucker, I wanted to drill down a little bit specifically about workforce. Listen, we can talk about resources, supplementals, all that stuff. That's great. But the bottom line is you have to have people in the yards to build these boats. We know that we need 10,000 workers annually if we're going to get to a rate of building one SSBN and 2 SSNs a year. To me, we have to do that. In fact, I think you have to be on a cadence of 2-3-2-3 for SSNs, because that's where we enjoy such a significant advantage now and what we can do to maintain that in the future. The thing that's disturbing to me are the workforce numbers that we've seen both last year and this year. In 2022, we added 4,855 tradesmen while losing 3,384. This year, we saw a marked improvement by recruiting 7,193 tradespeople, but we lost 3,313. The question becomes, we can't do addition by subtraction. We cannot continue to lose individuals at that rate. So the question is what do we do to retain the workers we have? What do we do, too, in the world where recruitment, especially based on wage, becomes significant? When I was at Electric Boat, I drove by a Chick-fil-A. They had a sign out that said $18 an hour, we'll give you a stipend for your education, you have health benefits, paid time off, and you're inside serving chicken sandwiches in a nice, comfortable environment. And then you drive down to the yard there at EB where you're outside, where it's cold, it's windy, you're working with steel, you're in a fairly severe environment, and there you're being paid less than that. And we expect to be able to recruit folks from that realm to go work at the shipyard. Now, to EB's credit and others, we're building facilities where we're putting people inside, trying to make it more comfortable, but still, we are not at a competitive level on recruitment, and we certainly aren't there by these numbers on retention. Tell me, how do we solve that problem? Because that's the first problem you have to solve. We can throw all the money we want to at the problem, but if you don't have the people there in the yards to build these submarines, I don't care what else we do, this enterprise fails.
Yes, sir. Appreciate the question. And I know you have the data that we worked to get you yesterday. Yeah. So as you mentioned, sir, since we kind of amped up our workforce efforts, you kind of talked about the numbers where those numbers you talked about this year, that 7,100, that's through September 1st. Mm-hmm. So we're on track to get close to that 10,000 by the end of the year, after last year only getting about 5,000. Yeah. So we've already seen the benefits from the efforts that we're doing. When I talked about earlier, the population where Electric Boat and Newport News to get the people, they only looked at a certain radius. That radius is expanded up into Providence and some other areas where, as I mentioned, that Hispanic population, there's a high propensity there. That's why we translated into Spanish, and we're looking, that distance is really only about a 30-minute drive. The wages as well, I think you're familiar, sir, that Electric Boat raised their wages at Quonset Point last October. Since they did that, they've exceeded their hiring rates. So that takes kind of what we're doing to get after hiring. It's not just Electric Boat and Newport News. I'd be remiss to say it's the whole country, which is why we have this national marketing campaign in those areas where we have critical suppliers and everywhere. From a retention perspective, I agree with you. That is something that we've brought outside consultants in. Electric Boat and Newport News have had the benefit over the years, picking them to where they didn't have as much competition. As you mentioned, sir, It is a different world now. The data from before COVID-19 to after, where we really are seeing the challenge is in that first to second year, where our attrition at the shipbuilders and some of the suppliers has over doubled. So what we're doing is we're going after some of those wages, retention bonuses, engagement of supervisors to feel increased job satisfaction, and then also as they come in there, be able to reduce the supervisor to worker ratio so they can get that mentoring early on, become part of the team, and then make meaningful work where they recognize the mission is bigger than just themselves. So I'll say it's the soft touch in addition to that wages and everything else, sir.
Let me ask, too, I think there are other things that we have to do. We have to be able to look beyond just the yards themselves. The yards have a finite capacity. We also have to look at the suppliers. We talk about building the supplier base. It's not just doing that. It's getting suppliers closer regionally to the places where they're supplying the parts for these submarines and making sure that we expand the production base by having others that are building component parts that can be assembled at other places and then these panels put together and then sent to the yard. I mean, we already do that modularly. To me, being able to spread workforce out, because at some point you reach a critical mass where if people can't park, if it becomes less convenient for them to go to a massive center where there are tens of thousands of people coming into a yard, that's also another issue with retention. So I know I'm out of time, but I think those things the Navy has to look at. And I think, too, the Navy has to have conversations with local governments about what they will do in their plans for development around these shipyard areas, because it's not just the things that the Navy can do. It's also quality of life things for shipyard workers. Is there a place for them to go eat? Is there a convenient place for them to park? I mean, those things have to be part of this, because I can tell you, wherever else they go, they have these nice, bright, shiny cafeterias with lots of food choices, easy parking. All those things matter in today's workforce. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
The